Then? Excellent. Hi, my name is Barry Bailey, and I'm going to talk briefly today about the QR code project that we sort of started and have going on campus. This is Zach Zeringer from EdTech. He helped a whole lot in the design of the items and implementing it. So I thought I'd talk a bit about QR codes and sort of what I'd noticed about them. So they stand for quick response codes, and you can see on this main page here in the web browser, I'll blow it up a little bit, they're these funky looking doodle boxes. And we started noticing other institutions around the country starting to sort of slowly implement them, putting them on different print publications or hanging them up around campuses in order to promote certain things. In the larger frame of QR code implementation, you probably see them in the bottom corner of a lot of different print or sign materials. And a lot of times they're advertisements, or they take you to what's already being advertised web page. So we're trying to figure out a way to look at what college campuses might do and things that have been done elsewhere that were kind of hopefully a little more innovative, a little more relevant to an educational institution. Some of the things that I've seen at other institutions include at bus stops for people with pretty good MTDs, putting in codes, you scan it and kind of see, you'd be taken to where the bus currently is, or kind of get an idea of how long your route might be delayed, or maybe even see maps of all the other stops they go to. Some bookstore promotions I've seen where they'd have it on an advertisement. It would take you to any sort of, like, it might be like a coupon or some sort of savings, or just talking about promotions and how to pick up materials. And they do the same thing with other event promotions. Some people in some institutions have started putting them on things like business cards. So you'd scan it and you'd get a file or information about the person. So instead of saving a small paper card, you then have the data on your phone. You can add it to your contact list if you've got a smartphone that you're using. And then a lot of people seem to like the idea of scavenger hunts. Just putting up signs. You scan one, gives you like a clue to lead to another one. Maybe if you scan the final one or some along the way, you end up with prizes. In the library world, we started seeing QR codes going on a lot of things to help people finding materials. And since, probably should have said that, I'm the digital projects librarian here. Some of the things that we've seen are the print holdings, like journal holdings. You're starting to get fewer and fewer as things go to electronic databases. So people would start putting QR codes on the front of their print holdings, since they only have the few most recent out available for the public to look at. So you'd get it, you'd see a QR code. It would say, for archival material or for past editions, scan this, and it would take you to the mobile version of that journal's database. So, if we had, I don't know, some APA proceedings that we had out on the shelf, someone saw it, saw the QR code, they could scan it and then say, oh, I'd rather, this is neat that you have this, but I'm looking for older ones. Scan it, and then you're browsing it on your phone, which is nice. Other people have put up codes to actually reserve rooms. It'll take you to a mobile version of, we just have those study rooms. In theory, we could put up a QR code in front of a room. If all the rooms are busy, someone could just scan the code, say, I'd like to book this room in 2 hours, and then now they're on the booking system. Again, something we haven't implemented, but that we've seen at other locations. But what kind of got this rolling for here was one of the collections that I curate is the photography collection. Brett Gustafson's been here 30-some years taking pictures of the campus and chronicling everything that's happened here. And so one of the projects we started doing involved digitizing his negatives. So we actually had, I believe the link's still in here. Let's see. Yeah. So it's this piece of art, this thing called 3-for-1. It's right in the center of GEB on campus. Pass it every day, don't know anything about it. And kind of looked at it when we were scanning in the negatives, and we got all these pictures of it being installed. And I thought, well, how could we share this with people more easily? How could we sort of create context to the things around campus, kind of educate people who are here, give them more sense of the history and provide some extra information. And I thought, well, if we had a QR code in the area, you could scan it, and from the vantage point of where you're looking at some of these art pieces or different campus things, and be able to kind of go back and see that more historic image of what's happening. So let's see. I don't think we've got the link straight to that one here. But I took the idea to EdTech and I said, well, here's an idea. Create some context around items that are on campus by being able to do this. And Vince sort of, he liked the idea. He went out and found some other people on campus that have also inquired about ideas for using QR codes, and then sort of came together with that. And Zach here designed sort of a logo and an image to be used in the signs. You can see the sign right here and the way it ended up looking. But along the way, we kind of realized that maybe just promoting library resources might end up being sort of a narrower scope and what could be larger. And so what other things could we end up doing? One of the library employees had the idea of, her name's Sunita Gandhi, she had the idea of creating sort of maps, ways that you can find your way around. One of the things that we have in the library main office, it's right when you come up the stairs or the elevator on the second floor, people get about halfway down the hallway, see our door open, and they ask, where's this? Where's this building? How can I get there? And so she had the idea of creating a large map with a bunch of different QR codes to scan, and wherever you scanned, it would take you to the destination. Zach pointed out that having that many QR codes together when you're trying to scan them with your phone won't work that well. So he came up with the design, sort of a singular design, have the campus map, scan the code, and then, let's see, oh, there's the art scene. Somewhere in here, we've got, well, that's the maps. That's just the general map. That's not the actual one. So, yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to find that. Oh, you bring one? Good idea. So, see if I memorized this correctly. So it's a little skewed here since we're not actually on a mobile device. But instead of having a bunch of different locations to choose, and Zach's got this map. So the maps end up looking like this. Pretty nice. There's a star in the building you're currently in, lets you figure out where you want to go. Once you scan it, you end up with this. So instead of having a lot of codes to choose, you just scan the one and then are given the locations. So if you were in the library second floor and you wanted to get to GEB, you'd click it.
They're kind of finger size too.
Yeah. And so then you'd get this map, and again, it's formatted for your mobile device, so it's a little wonky here, but it would let you know where to start and then show you that it's actually just a straight shot all the way down. So that's sort of the idea. Another thing you'll notice is that this is a very generic map. One of the good things about having a QR code that takes you to one specific site is that you're able to actually update the site without having to change any of the signage. So if we get a more interactive map, let's say we end up with something sort of picture by picture or more Google Street View type of thing, we'd be able to implement that on this page instead of actually, having to change the code, remove the signage. So it's kind of a neat interactive way to get people around. In addition to the map idea, some of the other ideas that came about were, let's see here. We've got so this was sort of something that we targeted towards people that are new on campus, and we were lucky enough to get it up kind of before the last semester had started. Now we have another semester coming up, and for August, hopefully we'll have a few more maps. But in addition to sort of targeting new students with the maps, we also thought about some of the more common buildings that were on campus, like the Carlson Center and Rainier Center. We get a lot of off-campus traffic in those. So we thought, what's a way to kind of educate people about what's going on here and what people do and what their vested interests and being here is. And so we came up with the idea of using the Why I Teach video series to sort of promote why people teach here. Let's see. Yeah, absolutely.
So that last one shows you a direction.
Right there. Why I teach score. Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
It shows you a point from GED to, I don't remember, was it the Carlson Center? I can't remember.
Well,
where was it?
Library Widget.
Yeah,
Okay.
the one you scan takes you from the location where you are scanning it to,
Oh,
and it
okay,
gives you a
so-
list of destinations. So then you
Okay.
choose your destination from there instead
I
of.
see, okay, so it really knows where you're at and then, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently there are missing plugins. I'm not even going to bother with that for this one
I can
video.
talk real quick about this.
Yeah.
So, there's a large recruitment campaign going on, so myself and Paul McCourt have been making recruitment videos for a while, and we figured that would overlap pretty well with what Barry was saying. People that come here for, events, for, plays, music events, whatever is happening, would see this because we're trying to draw interest in people working here at JCCC. So, using that as another method of delivering, getting people to this, because as it is right now, they would have to actually go to the HR site and they would have to purposefully look for it. This, they would see it while walking through the hallway, and it's immediate advertising for our school.
So the one that we currently have up is actually in the Rainier Center on the second floor in that sort of big open area next to the wood guy who's kind of leaning on his side, asking how you doing.
There's a bunch of banners.
Yeah, there are a lot of banners of was it staff, faculty, and I believe maybe some students talking about their experience here. And the idea was to line up the Dave Krug banner with the Why I Teach sign. So that way, there's some sort of connection and flow there. And we've actually talked to some of the people involved with hanging those banners around campus, and the idea would be to have some more banners to correspond with more of the videos that are available and get more up around. And again, in some of those more common areas where people are here for, Rainier Center for meetings or performances or whatnot. And
We're also linking up, I don't know if it was Ben's talking about it, but the student stories series
Yes.
going on, linking because there are student banners, getting, doing a story with that particular student. So as a student walks by, they see the picture, they scan it, they can go home and watch the video, that student's success here. That's pretty neat.
yeah, and so yeah, we've met with other stakeholders on campus, and a lot of people have sort of brought ideas forward. So we're hoping that as that happens and people come with more ideas, we're able to get some more of these out there. Some of the issues that have come up in the past have dealt a lot with technology limitations and support. I know one thing the library wanted to do, and I believe the Student Success Center also wanted to do, was provide a code that you could scan, and it would take you to their chat client, so you could then, for the library, provide reference chat. For Student Success Center, provide, be it registration type, what they do, their type of support. Unfortunately, the limitations of that widget don't jive well with the capabilities of a mobile phone's browser, and even with the capabilities of their particular specific apps sometimes. For example, for us, if we embed our chat widget into a normal website and you're looking at it on a desktop, it's flash driven. So right there, if you're dealing with an iPhone, it doesn't, there's already a conflict. And on top of that, it allows sort of an anonymous login. You just happen to visit the web page, and the librarian's chat client that's running, it'll work just fine. It'll be notified that there's a guest there. The steps involved with the chat client, if we wanted to do it via a mobile phone, would involve asking them to download a proprietary app, create a username, go back, remember what our username is, add us as a friend, and then talk to us. And by then, they could have called or done a number of things.
Could we not build that page, their IM chat page, the orientation on a mobile, and then they could be able to contact through orientation?
In theory, there are probably apps that support that and clients that support that, but it just happens that at this moment, the clients we use don't interact that way. So I know personally the library is looking at what we could be using differently that would then provide more like mobile support or just easier support. And I'm sure the Student Success Center might be considering something similar, but I don't know because I haven't been talking to them about
I've
this.
done some research on what would work kind of across the board on Android phones, on iPhones, and web, and also allow for easy anonymous use or quick creation of an account. And there's nothing that really spans all of those boards. It's like a little bit of this or a little bit of that. No.
I see more on Android than I do
Yeah.
the others.
You definitely. Well, and you have flash capability on a lot of Android phones. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in theory, like you're saying, we could take one of our landing pages, like this one, only for the sort of the Ask a Librarian type feature, just for example, use my own department, and we could put that Flash widget in here, and like you're saying, it'll run on an Android phone, but if you try to use it with your iPhone, it's just not going to work. So.
Actually, the one that we use as a school, the chat widget, doesn't work on Android phone either. It comes up, but you can't interact
It comes up,
with
but you can't interact with it?
Yeah.
Oh, that is frustrating.
Yeah, so that'd be really, if somebody did land on that,
Mhm.
that would make them, talk about like right from the first use, never use it again,
Yeah.
And especially when you're doing like early implementation or implementing something like that that's kind of tricky, you could burn off all of your potential users immediately from a bad experience. So.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I was really excited when Zach made these designs. When we talk about trying not to lose users, the sign that shows up here, just a little bit larger, is very similar in design to the map sign, very similar in design to the one that's up under Dave Krug's banner. It says "Meet Dave Krug." And I guess one of the things that I would hope would happen in the future is as more interested parties sort of, get into this, we can look at that design and sort of create some sort of unity between the ones that are currently available and future ones. That way, if people start getting it in their head on campus, oh, this is a sign. This isn't an advertisement pasted on by a third party. This isn't going to take me to a commercial to buy, some sort of, I don't know, tutoring help, just as an example. I don't mean to pick on tutoring companies, but, if it were like one that had this sort of aesthetic and took you to a JCCC tutoring center, or JCCC writing center, they would know that they'd be going there and not being asked to buy a product, because that's what will end up happening with a lot of them. It's more commercial type stuff. It was kind of a big deal for me when it started, and I'm glad we're able to do this. We've got a few of these out there right now that sort of create some sort of historical contexts, linking students back here. They're only here for 2 years and a lot of times, and then they'll end up going to, say, KU or K-State or another college. And I would hope that when you go to a college, you get some sort of, connection or pride or like some sort of history. And I hope that they get that here before moving to another institution. I think that promoting some of the, things that have happened here and give people some of the history into what's been going on might help accomplish that. We have some different things set up for the sustainability department next to hydration stations, where it'll give you some information about the different sustainability projects on campus. It gives you a quick map out to where the glass recycling center is. It lets you know about the trash compactors on the quad, and it gives you a map to every other hydration station on campus. So, that's sort of something, so what's kind of happening now. These sort of historic peaks in the past, you get things like the hairbell being installed, where you scan it from this window, and I think this picture does a great job of illustrating. You can see pretty much from that perspective the crane lifting up the statue and putting it into place, and there are a few other pictures of it just being set up and right when it gets installed. And there are copies of ledger articles talking about how it got to campus, who paid for it. That was one of, I think, 3 different art pieces donated by the Oppenheimer Group that year. And then there are links that'll take you out to the actual ledger, the digital copy of the ledger that ran that article, and also the full set of photographs from its installation. And again, that does promote library products, so I'm definitely in it for me in that perspective, but I'd like to think that the more you know about your campus, sort of the better connection you get to it. Same with 3-for-1 being installed. We also have a picture of a concert from the late 70s held out right outside of where the student center is now. It's just this flat land, but if you stand in that perspective now, you see that it's the hill. It's just completely level at the time. So that idea of how that got there, and a story connected to it as well about the hill being put in, why it was put in, which I believe is also linked off of the sustainability page, because it was, So, that was kind of the perspective I started it from. But we've run into a few things that I can recommend if going about setting up a project like this. One I've kind of hit on is, I think, keeping a similar design between all of the locations and different types of signs, I think is really important. I can see us taking, this sign design, if you just want a smaller one for a box, like we haven't talked about it yet, but if you just wanted a small one, maybe just, keeping just the arrow design, like the very end of the arrow design in with the code. Listing out the abbreviated address. So if for some reason you don't have a barcode scanner app on your phone, you can just type it in. Or if you happen to be in one of those common areas where they are and you're on your laptop, you think, well, I see the address, I can just go ahead and type it in. But some of the things that we ran into before involved, like, for example, if you want to make a code with not a lot of detail, let me just where is it? Here we go. So here's a QR code generator. If we were to go to, let's just pretend we wanted to go to this specific video. And this is free. This just happens to be the one that seems to always pop up. It's just qrcode.kwa.com.
In fact, they created QR code. That's the group
Yeah.
Japan created QR codes.
So that's handy. I can't remember who the first group, was it the Toyota company that really started using them? Yeah. So, yeah, it gives you an option here. In Switzerland now. So it gives you some options. You can paste in the URL here. Make sure I got it correct, not just bad. You tell it to generate, and you have all of those initials from the QR code, and you come up with a really complicated looking box. You see it's a bit more detailed than the ones from the picture of this. And the reason is it's trying to replicate all of those characters into one code. that's why we ended up using a link shortener. So that way, if you just would have put in the shortened link of it, the code that gets generated becomes less detailed. So someone with, say, a lower powered camera on their phone trying to use a barcode scanner app, they'd be able to do it a bit more easily. Vince and I rag on Vince about this a lot, we both had really early Android model phones. I just now replaced mine, but if we had a code like this, I'd have to stand there forever while the camera's trying to focus in and out until it finally just goes. Once we shortened it, that time was cut down dramatically. Now I have a fancy phone, so Vince doesn't, though, so I can rag on him about that still.
I should point out, too, not only we're using URLs, but text, phone numbers, SMS, there's also a whole bunch of other standards. Those are just the common ones. So I think the text will do 1024 characters. It's a lot.
It's quite a bit.
Yeah, so you can just have a paragraph that'll come up on the screen on the QR code reader. There's a lot of, you can do, it doesn't have to go to a web page. We're just using it to deliver richer content.
Right, right.
So
in the future, though, I mean, in theory, if we wanted to put up a support number, like, say, outside of a building, if the building were shut, or if there happened to be, like, a long line and you're waiting. Yeah, you wanted to do an emergency number, or I'm just still thinking about the Student Success Center, if it were easier for them to handle people on phone while there's a large line. If you'd rather, take your chances in the queue, in the phone queue, you might be able to just scan it, get the phone number on your phone, and then call in. Or if there are related departments along the way while you're waiting, It's like, want to see if you have your books available? Call the bookstore while you're waiting in line to go to the Student Success Center. So there.
So you save this one as an image somewhere?
Yeah, you save it. Yeah, we saved it as an image. You generate it. You can even tell how large you want it. If I right-click, just do a save image. And then Zach does the magic with the design of making these all look good.
I just actually copy the image and I paste it in Photoshop. So I just right-click on the image, copy image, and go into Photoshop and Command V, and it's in there.
So now, are you guys making your own signs?
Right now, we're actually printing them out just because it's quicker. We're doing such low numbers, but I'm sure you could send a PDF to Document Services and have them crank out a lot of signs if you needed to.
Or they can actually create them in publications, like if they wanted any extra design work done around it, send them to.
Yeah, or send to Julie Haas to put on the webpage. I mean, we can put QR codes on web pages too, just to get to other places quickly. On a mobile device. It's kind of weird, but if you're sitting at your computer and there's a link to a map and you're gonna go there, you can scan it and you have it on your phone and you can go. So it allows you to break away from the computer.
Yeah.
Without emailing yourself a link or typing it in your phone.
Yeah, it just lets you take away from the spot and not lose, I guess, your mental bookmark.
Well, I could see it being used on digital signage actually quite a bit. So we have this great
Right.
digital signage system in the school, and you can have a QR code up there to deliver much more than whatever that tiny little slide is that's usually up there. So you could say Math Resource Center, and you have a QR code, and you're like, what's that? Scan it, and then you get the whole shebang of what Math Resource Center is.
Which is actually a page we've built but haven't implemented yet. We haven't found a place to put that up. But if people were walking past the Math Resource Center and might need help there but weren't sure exactly what they might be able to get there,
Right.
Find out what's available at Math Resource Center, scan the code, get a big list, and I think there's an embarrassing picture of Jeff Frost playing in his band at the bottom.
Great.
Keyboard master, that guy.
So did you guys build a math resource center on the blogs page?
Yeah, everything that we have built here is on the blogs server. Sort of another way to say, if you scan this and you get to the address, you're going to something within the jccc.edu domain. So it carries that little bit of authority, a little bit of connection to the campus, so you're not being taken, again, to a third-party site.
And even more important is you're getting a mobile template for it, which means that it's designed for a mobile device. If you link straight out to jccc.edu, you're on a tiny screen and you have this huge web page and you're probably not going to be able to read
Actually,
much.
we do have a mobile site.
Yeah,
That's right.
currently they've got that
I haven't
set
seen
in
it
place.
yet.
You'll have to look at it, and I think we're on stage 2 right now, but.
Okay.
Stage 2 starts in June because the library gets in on it.
Well, and the thing is that you wanna make sure that if it's the college site, that you work with web publishing too, because we need to make sure that those pages that you wanna deliver are on the mobile site,
Mhm.
they don't just appear. But if there's pages built for the mobile, it'll automatically default when you scan it for the mobile,
That's
so.
great, that's good.
And it'll let you go back to full size if you want it, which I like, so.
Right.
But basically, we like to encourage people that have, web pages on the college site to come to us,
Mhm.
so we can coordinate it, so that we don't have duplicate information, you know, like.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want you guys to go out and put payment deadlines out there and have people scan them, and then.
Right.
But all of the mapping and stuff is really cool, I really like how that's working together.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff I think that people are putting on here is just off of their department's personal blogs. So the information that they would have on the blog,
Yeah.
they would use with a QR code.
Mhm.
And then obviously your projects with the history of JCCC is all coming off of.
Library servers. Yeah. And the library has its own mobile site, and it's not within web publishing, but I don't think web publishing wants to try to recreate a mobile catalog of ours, the library catalog.
I don't know how big it is.
It would break one's head. It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And we're getting ready
We
to.
used to have 80,000 pages on our site, but not anymore.
Ugh. We won't talk about that. So, what, yes?
Finish, I want to go back to the scanning part of it. I need to understand, what kind of a phone is called smartphone? After you shot the pictures, what do you do with it? What
Okay,
kind of
I can
application will
demonstrate
kick
that
in
for you
there
right
and
now.
convert that one?
Yeah, and I can, real quick before you do that, talk about this here. You know, I've got a Android phone, I have iOS devices, I have an iPod Touch, and I've got a iPad in the office,
Okay.
just as an example. When you go to your store, you can put in barcode scanner or QR code scanner, and you'll get some options. Obviously, it's a different interface on your phone, but this is a really popular one. I had it.
You go to your application store on
Mhm.
your phone to get that.
Yep. Most of them are free. I'd recommend using a free one because they're real simple to use. Some of them have added features, like this one will scan QR codes, but its primary focus is as a barcode scanner for, like, you know, if you're out at, say, Walmart shopping and you want to buy some noodles, but you don't know if it's the best deal on pasta, so you scan it and it'll be like, well, you know, your rigatoni would be all right from here, but if you go to Target, it's on sale for half off.
I like that app.
So, you know, it'll do that, and it'll handle scanning QR codes. So these are some of the ones. The one I have on my phone now, I believe, is this QR barcode scanner.
For
what-
iPhones,
what-
red laser is very popular.
Yeah.
What kind of a phone?
This.
Yeah.
These are all Android. Over here in the Apple Store, these are the first two that come up.
Okay.
But you know, if you're shopping or not shopping, if you're going to the app stores on your phone, obviously the interface is going to look a little bit different. But you know, just put in QR or barcode scanner, and they'll show up like this.
Okay.
And for any phone, I mean, even for BlackBerry, they all have something for that.
Yeah.
In fact, some now Android, you know, when you get a new Android phone, I've
Some will
seen
have it on there.
Already on
Yeah.
there, yes.
And the one that comes on there is that barcode scanner app, the one that was at the beginning of the list. At least the one that came on my old phone, which I thought was nice because for all the programmers in the room, it actually has an API on the back end of it. So let's say instead of having a mobile web page for people to get to, but rather it was part of a larger JCCC app, we'd actually be able to program the use of the QR code scanner into it. But that's neither here nor there, because that's kind of a long vision, what I hope might happen one day. Right now we'll focus here on the smaller things.
QR code.
Yeah, but back here on the home page, if you go to blogs.jccc.edu/QR, this is the page. We haven't treated all of the separate. We've treated all of the separate codes as pages instead of blog posts, and we've kind of disabled one's ability to kind of look at them from your computer, because the idea is the content would be there for mobile accessibility, for, you know, in context of when you're actually standing there for a lot of these things. This one's just a congratulations, you know how to use your phone message, and then encourages you to go out on campus and look for other things to find. At least that's what I told it to say, so I hope it does.
I actually scanned that code from here.
Yeah.
Let me do that.
Say,
What does it say?
uh,
It says, sweet, you scanned it, now start looking around campus for more.
Yeah.
I don't know if that one was actually programmed to.
There's an interesting thing about QR codes too, is there's these 3 align lines, or boxes for aligning, but it also has 33% redundancy, so if you only see basically a third of this, if it's obscured by something, you'll still be able to scan it. If it's been like, you know, out in the rain and it's kind of like all messed up, if you can get a third of it, you can still scan it. So they designed that because of like shipping labels and stuff that are getting like tossed around down like a conveyor belt or whatever. They could still scan. So these are pretty robust little things.
Yeah, and one of the other things, you know, one of the reasons why we chose this, right when we were starting to implement this project, some of the other stakeholders that Vince had talked to mentioned, well, you have phones coming out now with, you know, those RF sensing, so why don't you just, you know, hook them up to do that? Or I think Microsoft has a proprietary type code, and there are a few others out there. And my thought was on it, this is going to be pretty much the lowest common denominator across phones. You're going to have probably the widest ability with the QR code out of all those types of options. You know,
Put it this way, they still use barcodes, so I think QR codes
Yeah.
are going to be around for a long, long
Oh,
time.
yeah.
So.
yeah. So yeah, right now we're in, like I said, the first semester of having these out there. We're going to hopefully collect data, see what gets used, what's not getting used. Another important issue, especially in a campus like this, is we're just now getting to a point where it's going to be easy for people to connect to the Wi-Fi connection through their mobile devices. For the longest time in the library, you get a certificate error, and on certain Android phones, that was kind of your dead end. You wouldn't get past that. I'm told that that won't be an issue anymore. But if if people, that's depending on people that actually connect to the Wi-Fi. If you're depending on your data plan, some of these buildings are concrete fortresses. You got to really think about where your signs are being put, and I think when we reevaluate some of these, we're going to find that the locations were just hard to connect to, and we might need to think about moving them or a better place or a better way to implement them. So we're very much in that reassessment phase coming up here at the end of the semester. So those are some of the issues we've run into.
And again, you know, it can be text, which can contain a link in it. So in a tap link, like one you would, after you scan it, one you would touch after that. So, you know, that might be something to look into.
It's a possibility.
That, you know, for signs that are deep, somewhere in the building, or like, you know, like basement level or something like that, where you're not going to be able to get any kind of signal, and maybe not even Wi-Fi, you can still deliver information through text. And then they can take that link that's inside the text and then go somewhere once they're outside or back in their office.
Yeah.
Save it or share it or whatever.
Yeah. Well, some of the other ideas that we talked about the maps, we talked about the locations across campus. We'd like to get more sort of artwork history, more about how things got here and why they're here. Events and landmarks. One of my favorite ones is scannable on the second floor of the library in a window looking down at where we have Mega Desk now, that huge desk in the lobby where everything circulates from. But if you scan it, you get an image from that vantage point followed by other images of what registration was like in 1982. A lot of the ideas I get for what we should do and what we have it obviously is limited by the content we currently have available, but one of the things that I do is monitor Twitter for things that people mention about JCCC, and one of the biggest complaints that you'll find there, besides parking, is the registration process. People are constantly frustrated. So, not only are we providing a little bit of context into what registration was like in 1982, but hopefully we make it seem a little easier on them. You get the view from above looking down, and you've got all these printed out graphs and black lines crossing out papers that are done, and people standing in long, long lines going out of the building. And the pictures, it's funny but not funny, I guess. Funny because I'm not having to do it. But you have lines and lines of grumpy looking students. Everyone looks displeased, and then there's one person sitting at a registration table counting money with a big smile on her face. So she's like, she seems very pleased. Everyone else looks miserable. But I just thought it was kind of funny, and again, provides a bit of context into how things were, and maybe if we're lucky as a tertiary item, it'll make people feel not quite as bad about the current registration process.
A
So
lot of people remember those days.
yeah, I was 0 when that happened.
I have two personal experience somehow tied to these kind of things. In the mid-90s, I was a student intern at UMKC International Student Office. They have all those, like nowadays, doctor's personal file, the student's application file incomplete. So those folders keep shuffling around, maybe send to financial office, send to the PhD admission office. The interns keep sending out to look for those files. So if we could get that organized in a way, have a student ID barcode in there, then it's in the 2003-2005 time period. I'm working for a printing company, and I implement one of the barcoding. They every print job is, they call it a job, it's actually a big folder, have lots of graphic in there. So you go down through assembly line, and customer service take that out to take some phone call, add some artwork in there. So we end up with dividing each zone as a barcode. When you have this envelope, move to the next one, scan it again. So you look at that scan on that location 1, 2, 3. You see, oh, we have 20 jobs in here. So you tie that up. Some of the floor managers see which one. Okay, when is this one going to reach the shipping? You can tie. It's not this barcode, but I think we could use similar to track some of those jobs.
That'd be pretty handy. Yeah.
And it track in the warehouse material.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely how these kind of got their
Inventory
start.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Counting it on through the shelf. But
Right.
those are special barcode scanners.
With a powerful database, scanning and like recognition, you can scan something to change information. So every time it's scanned, some sort of estate is changed.
Mhm.
And we can get really complex like that. Maybe not with WordPress, but
No. But in the future.
I would love to see. So every time you get to like a different departments, like outside of a dean's office or whatever, there's usually a bunch of brochures for whatever programs are being housed there. I'd love to see a QR code on the front of every one of those brochure holders so that you don't want to take the piece of paper, you can scan it and you go directly to
That's a
a
great
PDF
idea.
of it or whatever and cut down on printing.
I love it.
And I know sustainability would love that too.
Yeah. And again, I think if we start really implementing that, I hope we can keep it kind of consistent with the design that I think's been established through this. So.
Yeah.
But, something to unite it, because the more people get overload with QR codes, and they do kind of pop up everywhere, and they don't always go to mobile-friendly sites, and I guess they're seen kind of more as a hassle. There was a recent study done across 24 college campuses, and they found that 81% of their students had access to smartphones, 75% were familiar with QR codes, and it was either 17 or 25% planned on ever using them. So, because
early stage adoption.
yeah,
Good time.
and the concept behind that was sort of because they're everywhere in their ads. I think hopefully creating more of a framework for what these sort of either official ones or not, campus related type ones, I think might be something that might ease people into that. But I'm sorry.
Did you say 17 to 25% say they will never use it?
Ever.
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 Will never.
Yeah. So.
I think there's something during registration that you maybe want to inform, is we use these on campus. You should look for them. They're going to help your experience out while you're here. And that would be something kind of, get them from the ground up so they know when they walk in the door, look for these because they're going to tell you important information, how to get from building to building, how to maybe in the future check your schedule, how to do all kinds of stuff. So
And we're thinking about ways to get them outdoors.
Yeah.
Other items outdoors that might be handy. One of the places that, you know, I mentioned the big belly solar compactors. You know, we made a page thinking we might be able to put one out there. We just haven't got to the stage where, you know, we haven't evaluated what's already out there and decided if it might be worth putting one actually on the machine. Another one I think might be good.
Final cut for that.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
easy.
Another one I think might be valuable would be right when you're walking out of the 4-story parking garage. There's sort of an overpass and 2 big panels. If someone's just parked there and hasn't been on campus and is exiting, you're like, all right, okay, here's a map.
Yeah.
Scan this code, figure out which building you're aiming for. So,
I think, you know, sometimes you get turned off by them if you're scanning them in a magazine, and all of a sudden you start getting all these emails from them. It just kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
turns you off to them.
Or you
So-
scan one and it takes you to a site and then immediately redirects you, and then
Yeah.
redirects you, and you're like, where am I going?
which
Where are you
which is
taking me?"
that's another issue we had when we were first looking at this. We had the Google URL shorteners connected to the WordPress URL shortener. We were using the Google one so we could, you know, kind of keep stats on who's scanning them from the sign, and then the WordPress one about who's actually getting there. So the problem we were getting on a few phones was that, you know, redirecting from one to another, your browser, certain browsers, certain mobile phone browsers took it to be as like a security threat. You know, once you're being bounced around a lot, things start getting suspicious, and they'd just flat out stop. They'd throw a warning and say, you know, we've detected this might possibly be a threat.
And then a student seeing that, they'd be like, oh, nope, don't want to do that.
No.
So,
So,
So they collect your phone number from scanning?
no.
No, but
Well, correct.
can they put a cookie on your,
In your browser?
yeah.
Could.
I think any web page could.
That's what I mean, on your.
That's probably what the redirect
Yeah.
is. So you bounce
that's
into the
what I
cookie site, and then you get kicked off the cookie site to something else. So it looks, you know, more legit once you land there, but the thing that you pass through is doing all kinds of weird things.
Funky business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is about all I have to talk about. Does anyone else have any questions or, yes?
Can we put these on our business cards yet?
I don't know if Document Services would print one out. I haven't tried.
I got an idea though for that. If you really want to set up, you need to use like there's one format that works on almost every phone. I don't know if it's vCard or another one. You can get a stamp made, and you can just, on the back of your card, sit there for like a half hour and stamp them on there. I thought about doing it just because it'd be useful, you know, so.
I believe Professor Lafferty's done
Labels too,
that.
stickers.
I would say talk to Julie Haas about it, because the more she hears it,
Yeah.
the more we'll be ready to do something like that.
Yeah. I believe Professor Lafferty, Patrick Lafferty, has them on the back of his. I can't remember if he went with a sticker or a stamp like that, but
Yeah.
it's handy because, you know, you get his
Yeah.
card, you scan the back of it, you know you're going to lose the card because that's what happens. Outside of academia, one thing that bands started doing at, you know, festivals or concerts, instead of trying to hand out a bunch of demo CDs to people to kind of get their music out there, they hand out things like poker chips with the name of the band on one side and a QR code on the back.
Ah,
So, you know, you have something small, you just stash it in your pocket, empty your pocket, find it, scan it, more
Usually
likely
it's
to
a free
listen.
song.
Yeah, yeah.
Take you to like a free download or something.
So,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of really great uses for QR codes, and sometimes people take it too far and go the other extreme, like they attach a QR code to an email. When, you know, why would you do that? Because you can just send the link. And so if you really understand what the purpose is,
Mhm.
there's some pretty cool things you can do with it.
so I think I've covered everything I need to cover, but